Right, Paula, we are live.
Hi.
How are you? Why is the
Really
camera
good,
not
thank you.
moving?
Really looking forward to this movement. But if you bear with me just a second, I'm just going to go and see if I can grab an alternative.
What are you doing? Right, guys, if you just landed here, we are now looking. What's the matter? Oh. Good luck with that. Midstream. You can't do that, Bob. Yeah, so we're going to watch this watch along now. It's just going live in a second. If you give us a second, I've already pressed play, so it should start in a second. As soon as they start talking, we'll be able to hear them.
I'm really looking forward to this news. I mean, this is massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the markets and the way things have been for the last few days, everything has been down, and we really need some good news. And with the ETF launch that came out last week, it did amazing. However, it still hasn't affected the market prices at the moment. So, yeah, really hoping to see some positives coming out today.
Alrighty.
Here we go.
Going to kick things off here. David and Matt, I believe you guys are
Not me.
in the chat. Actually, I think Matt might still be a listener. So just checking in. David, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just brilliantly. We'll give Matt a second or two to come up here as a speaker.
I think I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Oh, that's so weird.
That's all right. I'm here. It's good to see you. Good to see you, David.
Nice to see you, Matt.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, let's kick this off. Hi, everybody. And thank you for we're at 1.3 thousand listeners tuning in to this space on this lovely Thursday afternoon at 2:30. So thank you all for joining. I'm excited to kick this off. We're talking XRP, obviously, ETFs, and what this all means for investors and the market. So the big news today is that Bitwise just dropped their first XRP spot ETF. It's the second one out there on the market. And we've got Matt Hogan, the Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise, and David Schwartz, Ripple's Chief Technology Officer, here to break it all down with me today. So let's get started. Matt, I want to start with you. Can you explain why now, basically, what's the significance of launching the XRP ETF at this moment? And what does the timing tell us about the current altcoin ETF landscape and the institutional demand that we're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. First, it's great to be here. Honored to be on the stage with David and with you, Eleanor. And thanks everyone for listening in. Yeah, really excited to bring the Bitwise XRP ETF to market on the New York Stock Exchange with the phenomenal ticker XRP. Excited to bring it to market with the lowest fee on an XRP ETF at 34 basis points, waived for the first month, institutional custody. We want to make it push button easy for every investor around the world to gain high quality exposure to one of the most exciting, largest, and longest standing crypto assets in the world. In terms of the timing of the launch, it's worth noting that Bitwise, of course, has wanted to launch an XRP ETF for many years. We've held XRP in our index fund. It's on the Mount Rushmore of crypto assets, one of the most important, best known, strongest community, incredible technical backing. And it wasn't possible until now. Under the new regulatory environment, I'm sure David will have a lot to say about what that means for XRP and sort of the change that we felt. But from an ETF perspective, we can now help investors gain exposure to these incredible assets for the first time ever. I think it means that an entire group of investors, new types of investors who couldn't or didn't feel comfortable accessing these opportunities in the past, can now do it. And the other thing it means is that institutional managers like Bitwise can go out and talk to institutional investors and family offices and financial advisors about the opportunities in something like XRP, which is not something we could really do before we had a product on the market. So I just couldn't be more excited for today.
Yeah, Matt, I'm glad you brought up the regulatory piece of this because that's something I think, everybody in the space has been eager to talk about, to see, since this year has really ushered in a new era for, just, what is possible, I think, in this space, not just from an ETF standpoint, but from a company standpoint. And David will be able to speak to this very well. But Matt, just want to just quickly ask you how the recent regulatory and legal clarity around the digital asset space and around XRP specifically directly enabled this ETF.
Yeah, I mean, that is the word. It directly enabled this ETF. You had two things that happened. One, you had the long overdue regulatory relief against XRP and sort of the SEC's effort to label it a security, which was thoroughly rejected at court and then repealed entirely from the market. And then you had the idea about whether investors should have access to high quality crypto assets and ETFs, which was very difficult under the Gensler led SEC, which pushed people to invest in these assets in more challenged and less secure formats. And that's now reversed. Now, under this Atkins SEC, they're open to doing business on high quality ETFs. So we've seen a number roll out, more will come, but we're still dealing with the very largest ETFs in the market, or the largest crypto assets in the market, like XRP. It's pretty great.
Yeah, so David, the SEC, as everybody on this space knows, officially ended its lawsuit against Ripple in August after years of XRP basically being in regulatory limbo. I think your CEO, Brad, called it regulatory purgatory. So, what do these ETF launches say about XRP's maturity now and its credibility in traditional financial markets today?
Yeah, I think there's an increasing recognition in the United States, particularly. The rest of the world was, realizing that these are real tools, that there's real technology here, and the United States increasingly became out of step with the rest of the world. And I think recently we've seen the United States, align itself more with the way the rest of the world has been looking at digital assets. And XRP fought its own battle and had that regulatory clarity, but I think the drag on industry adoption, especially enterprise adoption of blockchain technologies, was really harming the growth of all blockchains. Now we're seeing increasing. I think the United States, changing its tune has also helped accelerate the adoption internationally. We saw the Basel Committee say that global crypto rules for banks need to be revised, which is brand new. There's clarity with MiCA in the EU and frameworks in the UAE, Singapore, Japan. So I think it came at just the right time, because I think if you look at what's going on inside the crypto space and DeFi, most of the use cases are centered around gambling, and you're not gonna revolutionize finance with a new way to gamble. What you need is a new way to do things that are sensible, rational investments and loans and all of those types of things that the cryptocurrency space can't provide without regulatory clarity. And the acceleration has really just made a huge difference in the use cases that blockchains can target.
For Ripple as a company, how big is this ETF milestone for you guys?
Yeah, this is huge. Being able to have exposure to digital assets in a regulated way through institutions that have custody done solidly. It's a huge obstacle for the adoption of blockchain technologies and DeFi sort of generally. If you have to do everything yourself, if you have self custody or and seeing this get integrated into the existing financial system. I know there was sort of an ethos in this space that the financial system is bad and that we should just recreate it, but you can't recreate it from the outside. And enterprises are starting to see that these technologies are beneficial for them, and I think that's critical. And the ETFs are there's these regulated stable coins, regulated ETFs. These institutional adoptions of that technology are just going to make it so much easier for mass adoption globally.
Mm-hmm. Matt, from the conversations that you're having at Bitwise, can you share some of the reasons why institutional clients and the advisors that they're working with are actually interested in XRP exposure as opposed to some of the other assets that you guys offer in your ETFs?
Yeah, I would say there are three reasons for it. The first is that it's targeted at very exciting themes that everyone wants to get exposure to, right? XRP is a way of playing the growth of stablecoins, the way of playing the growth of tokenization, the way of playing the growth of DeFi. And those are themes that are extraordinarily resonant with traditional investors right now. They all get those ideas and see the real world applications, maybe better than they do even something like Bitcoin. And so as a result, they're looking for the best ways to invest in that, and that obviously includes XRP. So that's one, is just a very exciting theme. The second is that the XRP community is just unrivaled in its passion and commitment, and is built on a very long, more than decade long track record of being in the space. I think institutional investors like Lindy crypto projects. They're more worried about projects that have just emerged. They wonder if they will emerge and disappear. When you start to talk to them about an asset with the kind of longevity that you've seen in XRP, that really resonates with them. And then the third is that there's a set of institutional investors that look at the crypto market and are looking for a place where they have edge, where they can have a view that's not held as consensus in the community of broader investors. And I think a lot of them see that in XRP. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that there's a array of different opinions on XRP in the marketplace, but I think a lot of people overlook its true potential because it faced really severe regulatory repression for so many years. And so I think for some group of investors, they look at that and say, we're just at the cusp of seeing the real world adoption of what this chain and this asset can be. And so that sort of alpha orientation appeals to them. So whether it's, the exposure to stablecoins and tokenization, the long-standing nature of the blockchain, or the idea that maybe, some people haven't quite figured out the reality of the strength in an asset like this. I think that combination is what attracts people.
David, can you speak to that a little bit? I'm curious, from where you sit at Ripple, what would you chalk up sort of the, Matt referenced it a little bit, sort of the animosity maybe? Is it a little bit of tribalism? I know that's sort of like rampant in the crypto space. Obviously, everybody's got the coins that they love and will be loyal to, right? But Matt referenced the sort of the overlooking of the utility of the XRP ledger and of XRP as a token. I mean, kind of what do you chalk the maybe some of that up to? Is it maybe a combination of just not knowing, and maybe a little bit of the lawsuit, kind of putting that down the list of tokens to focus on? Curious to know your take on that.
I think there's a couple factors. One is that there was some early Bitcoin maximalism, and we were like the first alternative to Bitcoin. We were the first blockchain that wasn't, a clone, Bitcoin or a direct clone of it back in 2012. And so I think part of it was just that we were a sort of a counter narrative inside a counter narrative. Bitcoin was like a radical counter narrative there, and it was very small. And then we were just like a counter narrative inside that counter narrative, which is like, who are your allies when you're the small out group of a small out group? I think another factor was the SEC litigation, and I think a lot of people just assume that, wow, they must really have done something bad for the SEC to have targeted them. And it took a while for people to look at the lawsuit and be like, wait a minute, the SEC conducted a thorough investigation, and that was the best they could come up with. I think also we were just really early with some ideas that were just very controversial. Proof of work was the only technology that people thought was like, was blockchain, and to be able to come around on that, and the greater functionality. I think we were just early to a bunch of things. I think also some of it is just irrational. I think part of it is that, if you hold Bitcoin, any counter narrative to Bitcoin you perceive as like a threat to your bottom line. And so I think there was that early tribalism. I think that's going away now. I think people realize that, like, if you want the ecosystem is going to have to succeed. Just like there couldn't be a world where there's only one successful internet company, it's almost inconceivable that there's a world where there's only one successful blockchain or only one successful DeFi. It's just inconceivable. It's either the space is going to succeed or it's not. And I think people are realizing that the space is going to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Space for more than one person. I'm looking at my charts right now, and I'm seeing, XRP today is, it's a little under $2 right now, but the market cap, I mean, XRP currently has a market cap of just about $120 billion. Matt, what does increased institutional buying through the ETF mean for the XRP market?
Keep thinking she's talking to me.
Well, I'm the CIO, so I'm pretty sophisticated, and what my sophisticated approach tells me is that when there is a fixed supply and more demand, that's probably positive for prices. It's not a guarantee, but that's something that we've seen. I will say this: if you think about the audience for an asset like XRP, that audience has roughly excluded most of the money in the world. That's true for all crypto. And we've seen when ETFs launch that the circle of investors who can allocate to it just expands dramatically. You start to get advisors able to allocate to it, family offices, institutions, and on up the chain. They control trillions of dollars, and they're starting from a position at zero. So at least for the first, year, 18 months, etc., it's strictly net inflows. And so when you have more people able to buy an asset with a limited supply, all else equal, that's very positive. So I think it's hard to look at opening this up to institutional capital as anything but net positive. Obviously, the long-term price of an asset is driven by its fundamentals, but it's also true that if you exclude a big portion of the world's money from being able to gain exposure to it, and then you open that up, that is a major catalyst and major positive as well. And I think that's what we'll see as ETFs open up more and more of these assets.
I should have asked you this in the beginning, but how's the ETF doing on its
Paula,
first day of
smile.
trading?
It's really been amazing. I don't have the statistics in front of me of where it ranks for day one ETF volume, but it did north of $20 million of trading. There's
Just so
there's
you guys know, I'm
obviously
actually favoriting some of
a
these questions,
strong,
and we'll talk about it
more than
afterwards.
1 million shares traded on a day when the market is down. I think that's an incredible response to a new ETF launch. It's probably one of the top 10 day one volume days for any ETF, not just crypto, but any ETF this year. So the response has been amazing. And, as the market recovers, I think it will do even better.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about retail versus institutional demand for the ETF a little bit later, but I want to get to David and ask, let's get into kind of the interest around XRP and why investors are kind of focusing on it now and sort of what the value prop is here. David, from your perspective, what would you say is the single most important investment thesis for XRP? I've heard for many years that it is, it's the speed, it's the cost, it's the settlement mechanism for cross-border payments. That's sort of what the token is known for. Would you say it's one of those, or is it something else that distinguishes XRP from Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana?
I think XRP occupies a unique niche kind of between Bitcoin and Ethereum. XRP is the first blockchain built on any, that wasn't a clone of Bitcoin or Bitcoin itself, dates back to 2012. Doesn't use proof of work. It uses what we now call proof of association. It was the first ledger, to have tokenized assets, at the time called issued assets, used for things like stable coins. It has a native decentralized exchange to allow people to move between assets. I think the value proposition of the XRP ledger for XRP is a curated set of financial primitives. So rather than the sort of free-for-all of platforms with smart contracts or the very, very limited functionality of something like Bitcoin, the XRP ledger has a set of financial primitives to provide, useful services. We see it as a public good. We see it as something that you sort of can't partition off or own. And these features include things like escrow, decentralized identifiers, decentralized exchange, and so on. And so it's a platform for enterprises to do business.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe some of the other use cases, I guess, aside from making cross-border payments faster and cheaper, I guess, aside from the financial side of things, the payment side of things, some of these other use cases on the XRP ledger that are requiring the token itself?
So XRP has a unique position on the XRP ledger. It's the only asset that you can use to pay fees. It's the only asset that everyone can hold. It's the only asset without a counterparty. It's used as a bridge asset when two tokens don't have a direct trading pair. So if you're trading between two assets where there aren't a whole bunch of people who want to trade in the other direction, the network will automatically route the trade through XRP to improve speed or pricing. You don't necessarily see it as a user, but XRP does work behind the scenes to make those markets more efficient. And you see that as an XRP holder in the form of increased liquidity and increased ability to trade. There's settlement for tokenized assets like real-world assets and stablecoins. They frequently need a neutral asset to settle between them. XRP acts as that settlement layer, making exchange between these assets smoother and more cost-effective. And it's not tied to any jurisdiction. So, it can be held, it can easily be acquired and held by anybody versus stablecoins, which have ties to jurisdiction. So XRP provides liquidity across pairs on the DEX and order books. And then there's also cross-chain liquidity, like with the XRPL EVM sidechain and cross-chain protocols like Axelar provides. So XRP can be used in other ecosystems as collateral, as liquidity. So there's a broad range in multi-chain DeFi. And I think what we're starting to see, growing in newer use cases around the permission DEX for institutional trading. So institutions can trade on a DEX while still meeting their compliance obligations, settling directly on the ledger, with the ledger providing liquidity and settlement. and then the lending protocol. One of the most key TradFi functions is being able to lend and borrow money. And I think it's interesting as a lender, particularly because it gives you the ability to get a reasonable return for an investment of capital. XRP can be used for collateral because it's fast, low cost, and native, and it's likely to be one of the more commonly used options. But the protocol will support, using other assets.
So you see more demand as the demand from institutional investors perhaps rises through the ETFs. Do you see that affecting the role of XRP on the ledger, perhaps just being used more, perhaps used more for collateral in these more traditional financial vehicle type ways?
I definitely think so. I think in the early stages of DeFi, most of the use cases were focused around the speculative trading of digital assets, which it's a good thing, but it's nothing compared to the whole TradFi space. And so I think as we bring these institutional use cases into the ecosystem and onto the ledger, you're going to see that kind of growth of the use of XRP.
And are there any metrics that institutional investors can use to track the utility of XRP?
Well, I think the big one is, the market cap is obviously a huge metric currently, like $127 billion. I think looking at adoption by institutions for real world assets, companies like Guggenheim Treasury Services, Ondo Finance, Aberdeen, Franklin, the number of transactions processed, there's something like 4 billion transactions that the XRP ledger has processed, settlement speed, which is just a couple of seconds. The number of new users coming onto XRP Ledger, I think 500,000 new users brought in this year alone just from Zaman, which is just one wallet platform. And then I think we're going to be able to see, like, how do the ETFs do? How do companies like Evernorth and the digital asset treasury companies do? I think those metrics are going to be, is there institutional interest? Is there growth? And so I think, and then the growth of DeFi ecosystems on the XRP Ledger, like Uphold, Axelar, Doppler, and those other companies to see. The number of tokenized real-world assets. The XRP Ledger just broke into the top 10 platforms for tokenized real-world assets, and so we'll see all those metrics.
Awesome. All right, Matt, I'm going to circle back on this question about retail versus institutional. I mean, we have, let's see, two and a half thousand listening right now, and I'm sure a lot of those listeners are members of the XRP community, XRP army, whatever we like to call them. It's a passionate community, as you mentioned in the beginning. I'm curious, I wonder what the level of buying is that you see for this ETF. Is it coming from the retail side, at least initially, or perhaps for a longer time period on the brokerage platforms, or are institutions going to drive most of the flows for this ETF?
Yeah, great question. The answer depends on your time scale. So on the day that an ETF launches, what you typically see in terms of buyers are retail investors and hedge funds. And the reason for that is that they can move with the push of a button. If you compare that to, say, a financial advisor, they may need to check with their client to see if they can move them into a new asset, or they may need to talk to their investment committee, or they may need to due diligence the ETF. All of those things take time. They can take a day, they can take a week, they can take a month. For a large national account platform like Morgan Stanley, they could take a year or more. So that is a slower burn. So you typically see day one, it's hedge funds and retail. And that is your initial bolus of interest, trading, and flows. And then you have this much slower burn of institutional long only adoption that eventually becomes the dominant driver of an asset. But at least out of the gate, it's very important to have retail and institutions. I should say something that's obvious to ETF lovers, but maybe worth reiterating. One of the beautiful things about ETFs is that you, as a retail investor, can buy the same ETFs that the Harvard Management Company, that the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund, that the largest institutions in the world get used to get exposure to crypto. So you do have both use cases, but for sure, initially, it's the fastest moving investors, which are retail investors and hedge funds, that you see moving into assets on day one.
Interesting. And then given that retail enthusiasm, how do you assure maybe cautious IRAs that the support that you're getting reflects genuine utility rather than just sort of like initial retail hype?
Yeah, you have to have a conversation with them about the nature of the asset and the nature
What's up,
of the
Stu?
opportunity. With something like XRP, I think you spend a long time talking about the incredible efficiency of the blockchain, the incredible low costs, the business type orientation, enterprise style applications that you see. And I think when you do that, they start to see that this is either one of the crypto assets that they want exposure to, or maybe one that they want to overweight in their portfolio. It won't be every investor that decides this is for them, but it will be a number. It starts with education. One of the things about Bitwise is we have a 20+ person sales team. They do 15,000 meetings a year with institutional investors. And XRP won't come up in every one of those meetings, but it will come up in a number of them. I'll tell you that when I go and meet with the largest financial advisors, XRP does come up. They want to know what we think. And now we can tell them, and now we have a vehicle that they can use to express that view.
Hmm. Let's talk structure and value prop of owning XRP in an ETF, because you just mentioned some of the cool features is that you can buy an ETF along with some of those big hedge funds, those big sovereign wealth funds are buying the same products that retail products can now buy as well. But beyond custody and being able to say, hey, I don't have to manage this thing all by myself. What are some of the specific benefits the ETF structure provides to investors compared with holding the asset directly? And maybe you could speak to it from both a retail standpoint and an institutional perspective.
Yeah, sure. From a retail standpoint, I think it's pretty simple. For one, it's in a brokerage account. So many people have money in brokerage accounts, whether that's taxable or retirement income, and they want crypto exposure in those accounts. And so having a ticker you can buy, a ticker like XRP, makes that easy. And then it's nice to know behind the scenes that it's institutional custody with a qualified custodian, that a firm like Bitwise has 130 people and all they do is crypto. So they're always evaluating the best custodians, that they trade it with some of the best institutional trading firms in the world. Our portfolio managers come out of places like BlackRock, and we trade with Jane Street. And you get all of that in an easy ticker, that the expense ratio is less than 35 basis points a year. It's a pretty good package. For more professional and institutional investors, there are other advantages as well, right? If you're a financial advisor, from a literal perspective, you can't go to a Coinbase app and invest on your client's behalf. It has to fit in the traditional system. And then you add on audit requirements and reporting requirements. It's really the only way. So for retail, it's ease of use, comfort that you don't have to manage passwords, and low cost. For institutions, it's often the only choice. They don't have the opportunity to hold this in a direct fashion the way many retail crypto investors would.
I'm curious where you see the future of these single product ETFs going. Do you obviously you guys have this XRP ETF that launched today. You had the Solana one, which launched a couple weeks ago. And then there's a whole stack of single ETF products, coming onto the market, waiting for approval from the SEC. Do you think that the future is single product ETFs, or is it going to be more focused around crypto index funds? Because I know you have an index fund that's also waiting to be approved that has XRP in it also. So I'm just curious to know if that's going to be more of the future. What institutional investors are focusing their minds on right now?
Yeah, I'd call it something David said, which is that, it's not going to be a one asset world. Multiple are going to win. What I think most investors will do in the future, once this is fully mature, is that they'll have a core position, which will probably be something like our Bitwise 10 crypto index fund. Let's hold the market and make sure we have exposure to the best assets. Make sure we have exposure to Bitcoin, make sure we have exposure to Ethereum, make sure we have exposure to XRP, and so on. And then they'll have satellite positions that they overweight these individual assets because they're particularly excited about sort of the B2B and international cross-border payments that XRP enables. So they want to overweight that. Or maybe they're particularly worried about fiat debasement, and so they want to overweight what many people see as digital gold, something like Bitcoin. So I think that core and satellite exposure is how many people invest in the stock market. They'll own the S&P 500 and then overweight NVIDIA. I think you're going to see the same thing in crypto, where they have a core exposure to an index-like strategy, and then they overweight the most exciting assets that really appeal to them in an attempt to sort of generate some alpha and outperform.
David, can you give us a sense of how the XRP ledger governance works today? What's the current state of node decentralization or validated decentralization, and smart contract capabilities?
At the core, like any public layer one, the governance is the code that people choose to run. It's governed by the people who choose to, join the network and adopt its rules. The advancement of the ledger is done by currently 185 validators. Ripple runs one. They're run by various builders, universities, application developers, and institutions. There's just under 1,000 nodes, and anyone, you don't need any permission. Anyone can run a node or a validator to participate in the network. The governance, really, like any blockchain, is by consensus. What people agree to do and agree to change. And I'm retiring from my role as CTO at Ripple at the end of the year, but I'm going to be tinkering with the tech, and I'm probably going to spin up my own validator. I currently run a hub, and so I'm contributing to that decentralization directly. You're seeing a lot of technological movement towards smart contracts and programmability. They're considering things like native staking, discussing it with the community. But the core governance is really just the people who run the people who operate the nodes and run the network.
I gotcha. With that in mind, would you say the existing governance model is reliable enough for long-term passive ETF inclusion?
I think so. I think it's proven, the governance has proven itself for more than a decade. There's been very little controversy inside the XRP ledger space and the XRP space. We haven't had, the Bitcoin has had a couple of forks, Ethereum has had a couple of forks. We haven't had any. But I think the model, if there were contentious things, the model would be very much the same, which is that there's some disruption in the short term, but long term it hasn't impacted the health of those other ecosystems. I think we now know from experience that like large public layer 1 blockchains are stable. The core decentralized governance model works in practice, and I think it's proven itself to be much more stable and reliable than people might have thought.
Well, we're going to wrap things up here because we are a little bit over time, but I want to ask you both in closing, looking ahead in 5 years' time, where do you both see XRP ultimately fitting into the global financial stack? Will it be primarily serving as a bridge currency, as we discussed before, or an underlying infrastructure to real world assets, or a combo of various use cases? And we can start with David.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see massive growth in institutional direct use of layer 1 blockchains, like things like what Ripple's working on with Ripple Prime from our Hidden Road acquisition, adoption of stable coins and integration with institutional products, tokenized real world assets. And I think what's going to happen is that's not going to be sort of the end state. I think what's going to happen is over the next couple of years, that institutional adoption is going to make possible a mass retail adoption. I think you're going to see blockchain technologies replacing significant fractions of traditional finance for ordinary people as soon as it can provide the products and services that they need. If you think about what the financial products and services people need, like they need loans, they need sensible investments. As soon as blockchains can provide that, I think people will see the benefit of having a sort of open system, kind of like how the internet replaced proprietary information, movement systems. So I think we're going to see that growth of retail DeFi just turbocharged by the enterprise adoption we're seeing now.
All righty, and Matt.
I love that. I mean, I would add on that if you spend time studying how painful and sclerotic the existing financial infrastructure is, you'll quickly come to the realization that it does in fact need to be dramatically upgraded. I think XRP will be part of that. I just call out something David said previously as well. He talked about proposed potential changes to the XRP ledger and how that will evolve over time. I think a mistake that people make generally when evaluating crypto assets is freezing them in amber and thinking that that is the end state. Many of the questions that people raise about individual crypto assets will be addressed over time. So I think the thing to look at to see if a blockchain is valuable is, does it have a strong community? Does it have strong technical developments? Is it doing interesting experiments in these real world use cases, which are going to grow dramatically over the next 10 years? And I think when you look at XRP, the answer to those is yes.
But you would say, Matt, I mean, having XRP now in an ETF, in two places and soon to be more, I mean, it does sort of tie together the notion that it is now probably up there in the tokens next to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, all the ones that are, maybe in the minds of, the rest of the crypto community like legitimize, it's come onto Wall Street, it's finally sort of here for the people in the XRP community who, felt for so long that they were downtrodden because of the, the lawsuit and the 5 years of SEC kind of going after Ripple. But would you say that this is sort of the turning point, as it were, for XRP and for those investors?
I think the community is stacking milestones. I think the ending of the SEC lawsuit was a major milestone. Certainly listing the Bitwise XRP ETF on the New York Stock Exchange. I like to think it's at least a minor milestone. We're really excited to have it in the community. It's now really anchored as part of the traditional finance world, and we couldn't be more pleased to bring this ETF out to the world.
Great. Well, it's a great note to end on. David and Matt, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And hopefully we
Still
can
think she's
continue the
talking to me.
conversation.
Love it.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Looking forward to seeing you both again. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, so
Think of that.
Paula, apparently the stream's a bit glitchy, and I think I know why. I think it's because you left your profile open on the other side of this computer. But it is what it is. Listen, we live and learn. It's the first time we've ever done dual streaming to 2 channels, isn't it? So it is what it is.
Yeah, I thought it was my Mac that it looked glitchy on. But
No. Although, to be fair, I was just watching the stream on my phone, and it was smooth. But Stu messaged me to say it was glitching a little bit. So yeah, I'm not really sure, really.
yeah,
But it was smooth on my phone.
guys, if that is the case, we shall work on it. And as I say, it's the first time we've done dual streaming, but we are definitely hoping to do some more because there's so much news coming out, and I think that if we're not trying to keep up with it, then we're always going to fall behind.
Yeah, totally. Did you see? I'm not sure if you saw some of the comments I was pinning, but there was some interesting ones. Like there was, I'm not even going to try and butcher that name. I'll call him Phoenix because that's the last part of his name. But he's saying 100% behind Ripple's vision. All their acquisitions and market positioning, they have a serious plan, and I completely agree with him 100%. Whether the plan works smoothly all the way through, time will tell. But if you look at it on paper about what they're putting together, the acquisitions they're making, it looks unreal. Nobody's ever done this before, and because it's untold territory, quite often when you're first, sometimes things don't go smooth. But like anything that's a game changer, if you're first to market, that's what you want to be, isn't it? So it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I think it's going to go in the right direction. What do you think, Paula?
Yeah, I think you're right. Ripple aren't just hoping this is going to happen. They are buying companies to make it happen. They're not even relying on buying some of this creating some of this market share or creating some of the systems. They're literally buying their way in. And if you look at the amount of investment that they've made, even just over the last year, it is billions. So I think they're putting a lot on the line, and I don't think they would be putting this kind of investment in if they didn't truly believe they were creating something that was going to really build a massive infrastructure. It's going to be really exciting times for XRP and Ripple in general. I think they've got a pretty good shout at it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. So this is an interesting one. I'm going to pin this to the screen, right? And he's saying, do you think Franklin Templeton's opening day of ETF launch will be a record breaking? Now, the reason he's saying that is because, yes, Canary Wharf broke the record for an ETF launch. But Canary Capital, sorry, that launched the ETF, is like, it's tiny in comparison to these. These are the big boys. So what he's trying to get at is, because they're so massive and because they're dealing with so many clients, do we think they're going to absolutely obliterate anything that's happened before? And the honest answer is, it makes sense on paper, but sometimes things are just not that simple. It's obvious to me that when Franklin Templeton launch, it's going to be huge, but nothing seems that simple in XRP world to me sometimes.
No, and I think it's also going to be based on market conditions at the moment, because let's face it, huge amounts of institutional investment have been drawn out of the market. Huge amounts of retail investment have been drawn out of the market. And with the way that the charts are going, especially over the last 2 weeks, things look down. And we know that these guys are going to be investing for their clients with the view of making money. Are they waiting for the market to bottom out? when do we see the market bottoming out? Is this a shakeout? Is it a bull market? Is it a bear market? And these are the questions that everybody's asking. And I think there is so much uncertainty in the market at the moment that market conditions might play a role in this as well.
This is hilarious. I'm pinning this comment. Read that.
I can't actually read it because it's too blurry on my screen.
Okay, so it says, is Paula using one of those CB radios that gives you a cool echo effect? It's got profit on the mountain vibes. I dig it.
Well, unfortunately, it's a road mic, and if it's that bad, I might put it in the bin.
Funny. Right, let's go here. Let's go.
Maybe I'll put it closer to me. Does that help?
Yeah, it needs to be right in front of your mouth. I wonder where the echo's coming from, though, because if they're saying that you're echoing your own voice, it must be a setting on that mic. I'll have a look at it for you later. Okay, so there's multiple people in there who are saying as well they've bought XRP today. Now, we bought XRP today and yesterday, added to our positions. I'm wondering how many more people in the comments have added to their XRP recently, either this week or especially today. I'll be interested.
I think that people that have been in crypto for a while are not necessarily scared when the markets pull back. I think if you've got a decent exit strategy, if you are holding long term, then actually the aim is to DCA in. It's to reduce the average cost of what you've bought, and I think that's probably pretty sensible because with crypto, it's a risky asset. It's the riskiest of all the assets. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. We are taking a punt that this is going to go back up, but I actually think it's a good plan long term.
I'm pinning this as well. We're getting some help. They're saying, just a tip, use headphones and headsets for dual stream. Stops the echo. We've both got headsets, so next stream, we're going to use headsets.
We'll be on it. Yeah. We use my earpods. I think the microphones are pretty good on those as well.
This dude here, that's the one I'm waiting for as well.
Yeah.
That one there could be Colossus. So I'll put into the Wolfpack complete timeline. I haven't got it on me in front of me because it's on my computer and I don't want to change screens. A complete timeline of every single date of every single ETF, where they're up to, and what the either confirmed deadline is or suspected deadline. And it's just one after the other after the other. It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
So do you think this announcement by the SEC about their Project Crypto and them not putting as much scrutiny on crypto regulations as they were is going to have an impact with pushing through some of these ETFs on a faster timeline than they were intended to?
Absolutely. It's not even in question. I think anything that we're to do with regulations, which is in the positive step rather than a negative step, is going to help.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, and I don't think it's a coincidence at the moment the US have got a president that's so pro-crypto. I know he said for a long time he wasn't, but looking at what Trump and the Trump family, the wider Trump family are building, I think he is pro-crypto, and I think that, like it or not, America has such a massive impact on the market, on the prices, and on the regulation for the wider world.
Yeah, completely agree. Just so you know, I'm just seeing a load of people joining the crypto liftoff course. For those of you who don't know, we've got a crypto liftoff course, which is the exact strategies that me and Paula use during the bear markets and into the bull markets to make money. Because we're realizing there's so many of our audience. First of all, me and Paula came from TikTok. YouTube is a new thing for us. As you can tell by the echoey mics, because we haven't not using our headphones. But yeah, we'll crack this. But we come from TikTok, and we realised very, very early on that huge amounts of our audience just had no plan. Now, we run the Crypto Wolfpack, which is a paid community, but we realised from our community members that there was a need for a free course that they could allow access to their friends, their family, people that don't want to come and get involved in a full paid group, and that's okay, we get that. So I created that for them, we made it live, and then we realised actually we probably need to make this available for everybody. So if you do want to know the exact strategies that we used during the bear markets, all the way through the bull markets, and again through another cycle, then it's scrolling across there, but you can go to cryptowolfpack.co.uk, go and click on the free course. There's no paywall, there's no nothing. You literally click on it and you start learning immediately. So if you are interested, go and check it out. But yeah, I think we've had about...
On that as well, Matt, is that the people that have done the course have given some phenomenal feedback. And fair play, you've done an amazing job. So if you haven't checked it out, guys, go and have a look. As Matt said, it's free. So there is no outlay for you, and you might just learn some things that you didn't already know. It might be a huge amount of knowledge for you actually to get involved in something that you don't already do. I know a lot of people in crypto don't trade, but if you're interested, if you want to learn what it is that we do, both from holding spot and from trading, go and have a look, check it out.
So I won't name them, but there's a pretty well-known British YouTuber in the crypto scene that came over to have a look at it, and he messaged me and he told me that I'm absolutely stupid for giving that away for nothing. I think that's because he charges for his courses. But I took it as a compliment.
There's so much in the crypto space that's about paying and about people charging. So actually, I think to have that for free is just a massively valuable resource. And the more people that have access to that, the more knowledge is out there. And I think that we need more knowledge in this space.
Yeah, completely. I was just glad to make it to be able to give back originally to what was the community so they could use it for their friends and family. But listen, now we put it out on social media. The feedback's been phenomenal. Like, I think we've now heading up to about 150 people that have done the course in the last 11 days. So, banging, absolutely. Right, what's this date? This is an interesting one. Let me go and pin this one because this can lead in nicely to us telling them what we've got planned for next week. Do you want me to read it for you? Can you not read it? Is your screen that fuzzy?
I can't read that. I'm so sorry.
Okay. It says, Paula, I've checked out your videos about tax implications, and that's what got me to your channel, guys. So thank you for that. I appreciate the time you both of you take. Appreciate the time both take to do this. So first of all, I'm sure Paula's going to thank you, but I thank you for following Paula as well. Obviously, she's just only literally just started over here on YouTube, and she's absolutely killing it. Her numbers are phenomenal. I'm not going to share it here. That's up to her if she wants to talk about it. But the numbers that she's getting in terms of views are absolutely phenomenal. And I'm so proud of her because she smashed it out of the park. But we've got a contact in the crypto tax world. His name is Jamie. He is the UK's award-winning crypto tax accountant of the year. Now, you might think somebody like that is incredibly boring. This guy is full of tats and he's a complete degen and he loves a bit of soul meme trading. So he's the exact opposite of what you expect an accountant to be. And he literally is the award-winning UK tax accountant of the year. Well, up until this week, it's changing this week, which he's devastated about. But as it stands right now, he still holds the title. We are going to be doing a
sore subject.
Yeah, it's a sore subject. I've been texting him, taking the mick out of him, saying, "Do I call you the X or what? Where are you still the child?" Because I'm still me for now. So we are going to be doing a live stream, and we will have headphones on then. Whoever give us that tip, and we're going to be basically interviewing him. So. I'm going to put out a video on my channel talking about UK tax and ask people to put in the comments any questions you want put into a UK tax accountant. And I would assume Paula will probably do something similar in the lead up to it.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're in the wolf pack, obviously just message us. If you're not in the wolf pack, put it in the comments of those videos. We will be taking those comments and putting them to him. We're going to live stream it, record it, probably chop it into shorts as well. Sorry, Paula, what was you saying, mate?
What I was going to say was that video that I made, the response that I had was absolutely unreal. And for everybody that's watched it and for everybody that's subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. But you guys asked some amazing questions, and I'm not a tax specialist. So it was really important to me from seeing the comments that were there to try and get this arranged, because the more knowledge we've got, the less we're going to open ourselves up to any penalties or any letters from HMRC. I heard, and this is from one of the comments, so I need to probably fact check it, but HMRC are already sending out tax letters in reference to crypto. So we need to make sure we're ahead of the game, ready for January 2026, because that's when the regulations change. We need to understand what is a taxable event. And I think so many people at the moment don't understand. So I can't wait to do that with Jamie, actually, and I will make a video. So if you've got any more comments, if you've pondered on it since you've watched the video, and you want to know certain things, get them in the comments of that video, and we will put them to Jamie next week.
So when I was in the trenches of TikTok last March, I was doing videos about those letters going out because the very, very first letters went out. So I had one of my subscribers on TikTok messaged me and said, "What the hell is this?" He said, how can I send you a picture? And obviously back then you couldn't send pictures on TikTok, could you? And he actually was in something that I was in, and I was like, well, why don't you put it in there and I'll be able to see it? And he put it up, he blocked his address out, and I was like, right, is that real? So I did some research for him, and I realized he was literally one of the very first people to ever have one of those letters. And then I obviously hooked up with Jamie, the tax accountant, and he was explaining they come in waves, and they're going to come in waves now all the way up until, so it started last March, before the tax year started, like to give people a nudge. And now there's going to be more waves of these. And I think you're going to see probably thousands of these letters landing, I think, between now and April, I should imagine.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because what we've got to understand is every other investment asset is taxable. Crypto has flown under that radar, but crypto is becoming more regulated. And if mass adoption happens, then of course HMRC are going to want their tax that is owed on those investments. But I think the clarity around when it becomes taxable and when it's not taxable is the really important framework, because we've just got to stay ahead of the game.
I've got here a message from Stu. For those of you who don't know, Stu is one of the mods and the head developer or dev inside the Crypto Wolfpack. He's put a 3-part message in, and we're just going to go through them. But what he's given us here is the dates of the XRP ETFs and whether there is a confirmed date or no confirmed date. And we'll go through these one at a time very quickly, okay? First of all, we have got Bitwise for 19th of November, which was yesterday. Canary Capital the 13th of November, as we know that's gone. This is one interesting me. 21 shares, 20th of November. So has that actually gone live today? Does anybody know? Because I haven't seen that go live today. Wisdom Tree.
No news.
Say again.
I've heard no news about that.
Yeah. Wisdom Tree is just saying November. I think it's saying November, no date on it. You got Grayscale again on no date, just saying some point this month. Then the next one here is here. So there we go. We have got CoinShare again, November 22nd. You got Volatility Shares, no date. Franklin Templeton, November 14th to 18th. Well, it's going to be past that now, isn't it? This must be an old list you found here, Stu. You got Hashdex, no date. Then what else we've got here? We've got Rex shares here. And then, so there's quite a few coming. There's actually a bigger list than that. I stuck it in the Wolfpack today, and it's the confirmed dates as of today. And there's loads of them. There's absolutely piles of them. And I actually didn't realise there were so many as there was until I saw that today.
But I think this movement into ETFs, because it's new, is slightly unsettling for long-term crypto investors. However, I think we've got to acknowledge the fact, like they were saying on that stream earlier, it's opening up crypto to a brand new market. And the more investment in crypto, I believe, the more reflective that's going to be in particularly the coins with the big market caps.
Yeah, completely. Look at this one. This is an interesting one for us. So me and Paula have plans to emigrate outside of the UK. I'm going to be honest, though, if the UK bring in the exit tax, that is going to put a right spin ball in for us, if I'm honest. But if the exit tax doesn't actually get confirmed for sure, then our vision of leaving the UK in a few years' time is live. But read this. Oh, you can't read it, can you? But if someone were to become a tax resident of Uruguay, they wouldn't pay income tax on foreign derived income for their first 11 years. Just sharing that bit of info, I'm the opposite of I think it means expat. I think that's what it's trying to say. Uruguay is an interesting one. So I've spent hundreds of hours researching different countries. In fact, I should probably put it into a video to be fair. But the thing, the tax rules change in these countries so quickly. But hundreds of hours looking at different countries, different tax rules, especially on foreign income, because my income in particular is foreign based. So if there was a non-tax on foreign income rule, that's going to be beneficial to us as a family. But by far the best one that we found is, I'll let you tell him, Paula, because it is the best one when it comes to tax, in my opinion. But go for it, Paula. Which one is it?
The sunny one.
It's a sunny one, yeah.
It's Barbados.
It's Barbados. 0 income tax on foreign income, 0 capital gains tax, 0 crypto tax, 0 inheritance tax. You pay 0 tax and unless they change the rules, for as long as it stays at that system, the only thing you would pay tax on would be any income that was Barbados business. And obviously, I don't have any Barbados business, so and neither does Paula. So for us right now, that is hugely appealing to us. Easy to get residency there through purchasing a property, and easy to get residency there because you're a Brit and they're part of the Commonwealth. So it's an interesting one. Obviously, the standard of living there, so the cost of living there is expensive because it's an island rather than being a mainland somewhere. So everything's slightly more expensive. But I think the saving on the tax would heavily outweigh it. But yeah, we'll see how it pans out. We've still got a few years till we can leave the country yet. So hopefully the rules don't change too much.
I think the reality is that things are always evolving and things are always moving, but crypto is becoming more widespread, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some more favourable countries actually looking for people to move their money away from countries like the UK where the tax is so high. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see wider spread adoption, if we see more regulatory clarity. I'm going to throw it out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some other players adding to that list, because whenever you talk about going somewhere tax-free, people talk about going to Dubai, and
We don't want to go to Dubai.
But that part of the world is absolutely nailing it at the moment because people want to go there because there's such amazing incentives.
But they're locking that down now. They're starting to bring in very small taxes.
Yeah, but it's still much better, much more favourable than where a lot of people are at the moment. And I just think you can't forget the amount of wealth that's been brought into those countries because it's been such an incentive to get there from a tax perspective. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see countries that we hadn't even anticipated being more crypto favourable as time goes on. On the other hand, in that, if crypto is going to become more regulated, there might be some countries that implement more taxes like we're seeing in the UK. So times are changing, and I think the next few years will be a real game changer for crypto.
So I haven't fact checked it, so I hope it's correct. But I saw somebody that I like to watch on social media saying that Thailand, in fact, there's people in the comments who know this, that Thailand have now made it tax-free for foreigners on Bitcoin. Well, the headline was Bitcoin, but I assume they wouldn't just be picking Bitcoin. I'm assuming it would be crypto as a whole. They just probably use the word Bitcoin in the headline. So yeah, if you're a foreigner and you become a resident there, then it's zero income tax on crypto. And if that comes in, Thailand would become very, very attractive to a lot of Brits because
think of the money that's going to be invested into those countries,
and how cheap it'll be to live there. The cost of living is like hardly anything. In fact, not just the Brits; it'd be the whole of Western world that are into that want to get out of their countries because of tax. It'll become hugely popular, in my opinion. It's popular anyway, but I mean, it'll become massively popular with the crypto gang. If that's correct, because the Thai only last year we're talking about putting huge amounts of tax on the crypto income. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think more and more people are paying attention to actually the money that they've got left in their pocket, because it's not always easy times, and it hasn't been in the UK for a long time. Wages haven't been really reflective of the cost of living, and less people have got less disposable income in their pocket. And I think that these decisions are going to be made by people that perhaps wouldn't have considered leaving the UK before.
So that's interesting. Look, Luke's saying he's moved to France due to all the tax about crypto meant to be coming out. Is Europe much better, bro? Is Europe much better? Is France much better? I don't know enough about France because France has never been on my hit list to investigate because I wanted to go a bit further afield than this part of Europe.
And your French is not very good.
My every language is not very good. I try so hard as well. Like I really, guys, as you know, I've lived abroad twice in my life, and I still can't speak anything but English. It's almost embarrassing if I'm honest, but I do try. I'm just rubbish. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So we're talking about emigrating, obviously, and we're talking about getting into different countries. And I know this person personally. So this is Crypto Cabby. So this is a cab driver in London, and he's actually got the Crypto Wolfpack logo on his cab, right? And we saw that for the first time. We went to a crypto conference in London for Zebu Live. Was it probably about a month ago now? And he offered to pick us up. And he was adamant, in fact, he wanted to pick us up. And we turned up and there it was. But look what he's saying here. Look, if only I had a relative in Dubai, because his son lives there, doesn't he?
Yeah. Awesome.
Watch out in London, a fully low. Yeah, look, people are talking about it in the comments now. Look. Somebody's saying it. Let's pick it up. As a newbie in crypto, stuck in a limbo of do I set up an LLC now or wait till price appreciation, or does waiting sting me in the long run? Also thinking about a move to avoid such high tax. So I can answer this question. Remember, I'm not a tax advisor, and nothing I do here is financial advice. But I also asked that exact same question to Jamie, the crypto tax accountant of the year. And he said that if the crypto is already in your name, as soon as you dispose of that crypto to your limited company, then it's a taxable event. So you pay tax on it the day that you put it into the company's name. And I didn't know that. I was like, wow. He was like, yep. It could be. So there's tax that you'll save the other end. You've probably got to pay it as a personal person anyway at today's rates. So he was very clear though, saying everybody's different. But he was saying as a general rule of thumb, it's a misconception. Unless you are buying the crypto from the LLC or from the limited company in the first place.
Yeah, because I think what people don't realise is that swapping one crypto for another crypto is a taxable event. And this is why we want Jamie on. This is why we want to get all of your comments, all of your questions on here, so we can put them to him so that he can give you real clarity. It's not going to be specific advice. It'll be general advice across the board. But I know that he is open to talking to people and giving them the best advice he can on a more tailored basis. So we'll hook up all his socials when we do the live stream with him next week. And if you want to get in touch with him and talk about something specific to you, then I'm sure he's open to that conversation, because ultimately there are some big players in crypto, but there are some people that are holding smaller amounts, and even people holding smaller amounts are going to trigger taxable events. And we just need to understand what is a taxable event, what isn't, and what's your obligation for reporting.
Totally agree. Marco is saying, Marco is saying that he's interesting about Barbados. I'm not sure I'll be able to bring all my sheep and cattle from Uruguay, but I'll certainly want to take a look. Funny. Luke is saying, well, France is better than the UK. Mate, I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying I haven't looked at France, Germany. I looked at Spain, if I'm honest. I did look at that. I did look at Portugal. But yeah, France, Germany, Holland, none of them was on my hit list. I want to be able to go. If I'm honest, I want to be able to go to the beach in a cold month when it's here. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's the aim.
Yeah, of course. He says, I don't know if you're aware, but the voice recording, it is. So we've learned that we need to have our headphones on, but we can't do it halfway through because we have to change the source of where it's heading to. And me and Paul are currently sat in different rooms. But the next stream, we will have headphones on and you won't have that echo. So I apologise for the echo. We probably should have practiced stream with both of us on there, not just me. That would have been a sensible thing to do, Paula. But we're busy people, man. We've got time for that.
We are busy people. But guys, just to remind you, if you weren't on the stream when we were talking about it earlier, scrolling across the top of our stream tonight are the socials for both of us. If you're not already subscribed, do give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the support from everyone that's followed us from TikTok onto YouTube. It's been awesome. But also, we are part of the Crypto Wolfpack. It's the community that we've set up, and it is a paid group. But as part of that, Matt has spent hours and hours putting together a free course. So if you want to learn more about this space, if you want to learn more about crypto, if you want to learn more about spot holding and trading, go and have a look at it, because there is so much information on there. So if you haven't already, go and access it, go and have a look.
Yeah, so basically, the course, I've just basically put together the strategies that we use during the bear markets to take us through to the bull markets and all over again. And it's something that works, and I can't believe more people don't talk about it. People get too caught up with bullshit compliments, which they're just getting manipulated by the market makers. They're getting manipulated by the market movers. And actually, you can simplify it and make money. So that's exactly why I've put it together. It's completely free. If you go to cryptowolfpack.co.uk, Yes, you'll see the link for the paid thing there, but that's not what I'm talking to you about here. I'm not trying to sell that to you. Go and click on the free group. Go and on the free course. Sorry, you literally there's no paywall. You click on it, you register, it'll open up, and you're in straight away. You'll be watching it in under a minute. Okay, Paula.
But what I also want to just say and jump in on that and say the Crypto Wolf Pack is set up because there are so many people out there that are interested in crypto that have nobody to talk to in their normal day-to-day lives about it. And actually, it's an awesome community just full of normal people that are investing their money into crypto and are interested in having these discussions. Because when you are on your own, when you are sitting looking at the charts, who do you tell when there's a big liquidation? Who do you talk to about the price of XRP is at whatever? And if that is something that you find a lonely space at the moment, then go and have a look at the group, because I can't recommend it highly enough. The people that we've got in there and the knowledge base that is there is invaluable.
I think I'd like to share something actually. So when I had the vision to start the Crypto Wolf Pack, I didn't fully understand what the best thing about it was going to be. I thought it was going to be about education, that it was going to be about the signals, that it was going to be about the live streams, it was going to be about the presenting, all that kind of stuff that I thought it was going to be about. And yes, all that stuff's there, right? Yes, it's there. But the best thing about the Crypto Wolf Pack, without a shadow of a doubt, is the group of people that are finding a family and people to talk to, people to bounce off about crypto. Because I was lonely in crypto once upon a time. And when I'm seeing them have their people, they found their tribe, if you like. It sounds a bit cheesy, but they found their tribe, they found their people. And it's without doubt the number one feedback that I get from people. Number one. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and I hope this person doesn't mind me sharing this. I'm not going to say their name. Somebody messaged me this week to tell me that they're struggling. They're struggling. They've had some bad things happen in their life over the last couple of months, and basically they're skint. And they're going to cancel their Wolfpack membership, but they're going to be back. Give them a couple of months. They need to sort their work out and all the rest of it. I said, bro, life comes first, crypto comes second. You look after your family. I get it. And he said, I'm just going to miss everybody so much. Like, so I've just whacked them a little bit of free time. I put a little bit of free time on there because I said, listen, get yourself back on your feet. Because I get it, because it is like a family in there. And if anybody else is looking for a community where they want to get involved, then come and get involved, man. But listen, Paula, we have got 20 minutes until the live stream inside the Wolf Pack. So if anybody... I told
you, we're busy people.
Oh, no, yeah. But actually, I could do with a little bit of a break here because I've been flat out for hours. So yeah, I think we'll call this here. Listen, it was a good first stream. We'll sort out the audio. We'll stick our headphones on. We'll stop the echoing. And I look forward to the next one because we're getting Jamie in. That'll be a three-way conversation, so we definitely need headphones.
Absolutely awesome. Guys, thank you so much for all of you that have watched tonight. And again, if you're not subscribed to the channels, do give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Right, see you later. Bye-bye.